Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another edition. It's been a while. Another edition. There he is, joining us right there. So let's bring him in. So the foursome, almost the whole band is back together.
Gentlemen.
The fifth member is she's busy, and let her share her news later on. But she does have some news to share. But welcome to another edition of Folks Talking Sports. I am Kris Gardner, KG of the Houston Roundball Review. Joining me, as you see on the screen, and if you're listening later on the podcast platforms, Andy Yanez. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Chris, Will, James. Like you said,
Hold on, man.
it's been
Hold
a
on.
minute.
Hold on, man. I was going around the horn, man. Around the horn. Joining me next
Sorry,
is
I'm
Willy Gibson. How are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. And then last but not least, James Mueller. How are you, sir?
Doing great.
Now, Mr. Yanez, you can go ahead and do your
yeah. No,
conversation.
I was just gonna say sorry, Chris. I'm a bit. It's been a minute, so it's been
Yep.
a while. So I had to. I was a little bit in host mode for PFJ for a second.
No worries. But I want to thank you and Will for doing that show when I was unable to, and that immediate aftermath, my mom being in intensive care in the emergency room. She's now moved out of from St. Joseph to another hospital for intensive care. I saw her this afternoon. Uh, some good, some bad. She's started to breathe on her own more, so that's a positive. But other things aren't yet where they probably should be. But we'll just keep going and keep pressing forward. Let's talk some sports. Let's put up Andy. You want to let me do it one time, as we are folks talking sports. Folks talk sports on Twitter. You can catch us and join us with that platform. Reach out to us there. Hit us up on some questions or comments. As always, you can follow us also on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel. Had a nice following there last night from Rocket fans talking Rockets. Not quite Rocket related, but NBA related. NBA draft combine specifically wrapped up today. Is wrapping up. We had some of the college players who were still in town. They did workouts in front of teams with private workouts, one-on-one workouts. The feel good. Look at me, look at shine and do my strengths workouts rather than my weaknesses workouts for scouts, NBA scouts, and teams like that. And one young man, I think he did it yesterday, but I saw it today and retweeted it. Houston Cougar guard Marcus Sasser. Andy, James, you guys are Cougs. Will is knowledgeable about sports. The clip they showed, Jonathan Gavoni from ESPN, the clip they showed, I wonder if it was from the reps. Marcus looked great. Shocking. He looked great. Like they did a little compilation of him, his skill set, dribbling and making shots and all that kind of stuff. But what are your thoughts on what you saw from that clip from Marcus Sasser? Andy, you first.
Yeah, no, like you said, it certainly. When you look at the clip, it seems like Marcus Sasser had one heck of a weekend at the NBA Draft Combine. And to his credit, I think he's done a really good job. Even going back to the G League, I always forget the name of the specific name of it, but it was essentially kind of like a G League version of the combine that allowed him to get that full invite to the NBA Draft Combine. And he showed, I mean, he rose his draft stock because he didn't have a draft combine invite before that event. He was able to get fully invited, and going back to the Houston Chronicle article that I believe it was Jonathan Fagan that he wrote a couple of days ago. He said Marcus Sasser still 50-50 on what he's gonna, what he wants to do. Does he return to Houston for what would be his fourth season in college basketball, which is pretty absurd to hear that come out of, those words come out of my mouth, because I remember when he was a freshman. It seems like time has flown by, but when you look at what he's been able to do specifically in the draft combine, especially when you look at the game he played, I know he had 6 assists in that outing, but I think for the most part, the 6 assists were good. He didn't necessarily shoot it well in that game. And I believed he had 5 personal fouls, and
Right.
I can't remember the specific turnovers he had. I think it might have been like 2 or 3 for the outing. So not necessarily the strengths. He wasn't really able to showcase it in the draft combine game. But again, he said that if he doesn't get a first round commitment from an NBA team, then he would return to Houston. And I still think that that's not likely to happen. And even when you look at the mock drafts, the highest I've seen him, and Kris, they release those almost every day, it seems like. So I think the highest is 47 that Sports Illustrated had him in a couple of days ago. So it certainly seems like he's not going to meet that metric. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks to his guns, or if he changes opinion and chooses to not come back.
James, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Andy hit on a lot of things. Certainly, Marcus had about as good of a combine as he could have, earning an invite and then just showing up. But again, while I do think his draft stock rose, he's not a first rounder. He's not going to be a first rounder. I mean, that was never going to happen. And it's even questionable if he'll get selected if he decides to stay in, which is why I think that, he was impressive in the combine, right? So if he comes back to UH and does that for a full season, then he's got that probably Quentin Grimes status where, you could be in those 20s.
Right.
He won't be a lottery pick, but he could be, late first round. And so, yeah, like Andy said, though, I don't buy that, he's 100% going to stick to, no first, because he's not going to get a first round guarantee. But I think he might stay in it just because of all the hype that he's sort of built up. But I don't think he will end up, if anything, he'll be a late second round pick. But he's certainly proven that he can play with these people. But I think coming back one more year would benefit him greatly.
And I will just add on to this point that I think the most important thing that Marcus Sasser has been able to show these past few days, both in the G League and the draft combine, is that it certainly seems like that toe injury, I believe, or whatever his foot injury was that he suffered, the fifth metatarsal injury, it certainly looks like he's put that behind him, and that doesn't seem to be affecting him at all during these past few days. So that's certainly a plus in his. That's gonna help him in whatever endeavors he's aiming to reach, and that's certainly a positive for him.
Well, what do you think about Marcus Sasser specifically? And then I'm going to kick it around for everybody else. Next question.
Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, great combine workout, but for me, I'm not a big combine guy. I think what the combine does is just makes front offices go back and watch more tape to see exactly, what did they miss something, things of that nature. If his goal was to come in and secure that first round guarantee, I don't see anyone in the first round this year taking Marcus Sasser. So not saying it's impossible that it can happen next year, but if we're to take him at his word that I'm looking for a first round guarantee, and if I don't get that, I'm coming back, then I expect him to be back in Houston next year.
And let's go with that. Let's go right there. Will, he's not going to be a first round pick. Mm-hmm. And we see Brandon Thomas's comment. He'll be the next Jordan Poole. I think agents, representatives are using guys like Jordan Poole, Jose Alvarado with the Pelicans as examples to these youngsters, what you could be if you don't get drafted in the first round. Is that to me? That's not the goal. If I'm an underclassman, my goal is to be a first round pick. That should be my goal. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're a senior, you're done with college ball, you go where you go. Second round, undrafted. Your college eligibility is done. But if you have some, like Marcus Sasser's case, to me, if I'm in his shoes, my goal is to come back and be a first round pick. I'll say that. I think he's gone. Right or wrong. I don't think it's a good decision. Okay, I'll say that. And if his family's listening, because some of his kinfolk do watch Folks Talking Sports, they watching live or they watch rebroadcast, that's fine. I'm not hating on Marcus. I think he should come back. I don't believe he will. I think his mind's made up. He was 50-50 in April when he spoke to some of us media gathering. He reiterated he's 50-50 to Jonathan Fagan a few days ago. But what should we say? Should we be angry at him if he chooses to go pro, even though he said in April that he would come back to Houston unless he got a first round guarantee? Should we hold him to those words or just say, well, Marcus, we're not surprised at it. Good luck to you. Andy?
No, yeah, I think it certainly has to be the latter of those two. I mean, you can't be angry at any player, especially when it comes to they always say. I mean, it's a lifelong dream trying to pursue to be a professional basketball player and get paid to play basketball. And at the end of the day, I think if he chooses to keep his name in the NBA draft pool and then now return to U of H, I think at the very least, I think he could. He's certainly made the case. I mean, you've seen some of the other players in the past, whether it's Armani Brooks, Nate Hinton, who were able to get those G League deals. I believe Nate Hinton, right after the draft, he ended up getting a two-way deal with the Dallas Mavericks.
And he got cut quickly after that, Andy. He bounced around a little bit. COVID season, that first year for Nate. So, but yeah.
Go ahead. He did, and that is true. But at the end of the day, their lifelong goal isn't necessarily to play in the NCAA. And I know it's different now. You can make the argument, hey, with NIL deals, it will certainly. I see your point where if he comes back next year, especially with a lot of these experts, where they expect Houston to be, obviously with the recruiting class that they have coming in. I mean, if they keep Marcus Sasser in that core, they're certainly going to be a top 5 consensus team in the country for across the board. And if the possibility that they have to be able to what they can accomplish next season, that certainly might be it is a tough decision, because at the end of the day, you'd imagine that what Houston is aiming to their goal, which would be to win a national championship next year, being in that big stage, you can make the argument that that'll be more, that'll be much more of a benefit to Marcus Sasser if he stays. But at the end of the day, if he chooses to stay in the draft portal, in the draft pool, and even if he doesn't get drafted, sign some type of deal, whether it's in the G League or elsewhere, you can't really fault him for that, because at the end of the day, the goal is to get paid. So,
James, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree with Andy. I think UH fans can't, be mad at him. The only acceptable way I feel like UH fans could be mad is if he says, "I'm coming back, but I'm going in the transfer portal."
Yes.
Because then that's
I'd be pissed off at him, man. I light his ass up if he did that. Yeah.
Yeah. But if he decides to pursue, a professional career, like Andy mentioned, you can't fault him for it, because that's where all these college athletes want to go. But again, I think the big thing, like I'm with you, Kris. I think he's probably gone. But I think the big thing like that is sort of like throwing me off, or something that I think should be a real consideration for him is, yes, he improved his draft stock, but he was never a draft pick prior to the combine. So he improved it from, maybe being a second rounder, from, not being selected at all to maybe being a second rounder. That's still not a big enough jump for me to, risk
Agreed.
it. But I do think, he's gotten a lot of love, and deservedly so. He's performed well at the combine. I think that will ultimately push him to, stay in the draft, because, everyone, is tweeting, Instagram, everything, Marcus Sasser, one of the most impressive combine people. But I think, again, he should stay. But yeah, UH fans, you can't hold it against him if he does leave, because he's doing nothing wrong to you. Like I said, the only reason you get mad at him is if he transfers, but he already said he's not going to do that. And I believe that part.
Will, before I come to you, Marcus's numbers in the game he started in the NBA draft combine: 20 minutes, 39 seconds, 6 points, 2 for 7 threes, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 fouls, 1 steal, 2 turnovers. The 5 fouls, Marcus, his lateral quickness is not, in my opinion, ready for the NBA. He had problems keeping guys in front of him in that game. Okay, that's what I saw in that. Defending guys in NBA is different than defending guys in college. He's a good defender. He's a great defender in college. He's not a great defender for the NBA yet. Will, what are your thoughts of what Andy and James said? And what do you think? What he said a month ago, like 6 weeks ago, I'm coming back unless I get a first round grade. Mm-hmm. Right now, he's not getting a first round grade. So should we hold him to those words, or more to his words of, I'm 50-50?
I don't. Well, to answer that question, no, you shouldn't hold him to anything. Things change. Circumstances change. I'm not in his inner circle. I'm not privy to the inner workings of what he's doing, but I don't know of any scenario where anyone can be mad at him if he chose to leave, not being a first round pick. Yes, would it be best for him? Well, I can't even say that. Would it be the best case scenario be a first round pick? Absolutely. Absolutely. But who am I as a fan to say I'm mad because you said if you were a first round pick, if you weren't a first round pick, you would come back, and now you're projected to be 47 and you're leaving. I mean, people make decisions every day, all day, and they make the best decision for them at that time. So I congratulate him, man. I don't know, who am I? Who am I to be upset that he decided to leave when he gets drafted 47? Great.
Okay. What if he doesn't get drafted? And in that case, it might be better for him because he and his reps could pick which team that they think would be best fit for, and sign a free agent deal with them. What about that?
That's fine. I'm basically mainly addressing the point of being mad.
Okay.
Who are fans to be mad for what? I mean, that part.
Yeah, fan is short for fanatic. So there will be some folks who hold them to that. And one of those folks commented on the YouTube clip that his post game presser. Well, no, his media session he had with us, where I quoted Marcus Sasser said he's 50-50, and this person blasted me for saying, "Oh, do better." Where'd you get that from? And I'm like, he said it at the 4-minute mark of the presser. Okay, shame on you. You should do better, Roundball Review. Okay, those are his words, not mine. So, and then again, he told Fagan that 2 days ago. So, 50-50. Okay, what if he gets a two-way deal? Two-way deal, roughly, I think next year would pay him, well, if he gets it, and not every guy in the G League will get it. That's for guys who reach deals with the NBA team, and the NBA team has the G League affiliate, and they send that player, use Marcus as the example, to their affiliate, two-way contract. He could play up to 50 games in the NBA, go back and forth between the G League and the NBA, and make up to, if I read right, understood correctly, next season, $475,000. That's a hell of a lot of money. That's a lot more than I thought it was. And the money's gone up because probably 5 years ago, it was nowhere close to that, for G League guys. And two-way contracts are new. So in that scenario, good. Great for Marcus. And part of, as all of us have stated, these college guys, and Coach Kelvin Sampson has said it in media availabilities. He wants guys whose one of their pro goals is to play pro ball, whether it's in the NBA or overseas. So I don't know how much you guys make, but I think it's safe to say it's not $500,000 a year.
Yet.
So not yet. So if he gets a chance to do that, good for him. But let me toss it around. I'm just tossing all kinds of stuff out for conversation. Armani Brooks, Nate Hinton, Marcus Sasser, Damian Dotson. Of those four, one got drafted in the second round. Let's say Marcus doesn't get drafted. So of those four, just one got drafted in the second round. The other two for sure, Nate and Armani. And you could toss Dejan Jordan that he didn't get drafted either. Did not have success immediately in the draft, NBA draft, as in getting their name calls first round for sure. How do you spin this if you're the U of H staff, coaching staff? If someone, Kentucky, you're recruiting the same guard. Look at my guards. My guards go in the first round. Look what we do at Kentucky. Look what they do. Their guards don't even get picked in the draft. Where are their guards? How do you sell that? Because publicly, it's accurate. Our guards are playing pro ball. Okay? Our players are playing pro ball. But if a recruit and family says, but coach, this other school is looking at me, their guys get drafted. Their guys go in the first round. How do you sell that, Andy Yanez?
Oh man, that's a pretty tough question. Well, I guess what you got to do is you got to focus on Quentin Grimes and then show how he he came into the U of H program, his stock probably at an all-time low, and he was able to go through the adversity. It wasn't all smooth sailing for him. The first year he was at U of H, it took him throughout the course of the season to be able to find his footing. Was really able to come into his own towards the end of that 1920 season. Comes back the following year. Really seems to be really rooted with the program as a phenomenal season, and then goes 25 in the first round obviously he ends up playing for the Knicks. The Clippers technically made the selection. He got traded. And then even then you look at some of the guys that they weren't necessarily drafted. But how do you spin it? Maybe you focus on, at the end of the day, they, with the exception of Dejan Jarreau, who had spent his entire junior his college eligibility, he used all that up before he entered the NBA draft process. If Marcus doesn't come back, and obviously, of course, Armani that didn't come back, maybe you make the argument that they left a year too early. I don't know. That's a tough question, Kris. That's a pretty tough question.
James, what do you say? And here's a comment from Jay.
Yeah, that was going to be my main point.
Oops, how about that, guys? Yeah, here we go.
It is most of these guards that are going in the first round from Kentucky, Duke, everyone knows they're one and done. It's like before they play a single college game. No one expected Nate Hinton, Dejan Jarreau, even Quentin Grimes when he came to UH. No one expected those guys to be, they're only going to be here a year. UH hasn't had those guys. And Jarris Walker might be the first in this era of.
He is projected to be first. Yes, he's the first of this era, one and done. Yep.
So you can't really compare a lot of these guys, like, a Kentucky star guard to a Dejan Jarreau, because, Dejan Jarreau bounced around. He wasn't expected to be anything. And he actually, elevated his stock in Houston. And so then you can also talk about just the job the coaching staff has done. Just looking at what they instill in their type of players, especially on the defensive end, because that's a big thing. A lot of these guards, they're great scorers, but can they defend? That's what's going to make or break them in the next level, because, you can score all you want, but if you're a liability on defense, you're not going to get on the floor much. And that's been a staple of Sampson's program, and you've seen the improvement from guys like Dejan, Quentin, even Marcus. Even though you said, Marcus still has ways to go to be a good NBA defender, but you see this improvement, and that's something that's huge that NBA teams are looking for. So those are the two biggest points I'd bring up if I was, pitching this to a recruit.
Willy Gibson, what say you?
I agree with James and I agree with Jay. That's just it. They're not recruiting the same guard, in my opinion. So I think what Kelvin Sampson's pitch would be is improvement. Look at where these young men were year one to where they were when they left. They developed enough to leave early. Could they have developed more with another year or two? Absolutely. But you pitch the development, your style of taking guys where they are and improving them to the point where they're able to leave early or consider leaving early. But I don't think that they're recruiting against the Dukes, Carolinas, Kentuckys, and what have you.
And that leads me into my next question for Jay and anybody tuning in, watching us on Twitter at Folks Talk Sports, as well as on Facebook and Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel. Are Coug fans warming up to the idea that the talent coming in the future could very well be one and done type talent in the guards? Are y'all ready for that? Been so used to it wasn't the case for such a long time. Jarris Walker is projected to be a late lottery pick in the 2023 draft. That's front court, but he definitely will be the first one in this coaching staff regime. Are y'all ready for that? Because I think that there are going to be more guards who look initially at the development that they get that Houston staff is famous for now, but now say, well, if they're developing 3-star guys to get looked by the NBA, heck, the surveys say I'm a 5-star. So if they can develop those guys, what can they do for me? so they can make me even better and make me a lottery pick. So are y'all prepared? If y'all thought about those days coming down the pipeline, Mr. Yanez?
When you look at the Houston fan perspective, I don't think they're going to be prepared for that until they actually start seeing those players going. And I think Jarvis Walker is going to be the first true test because especially if he comes in, I mean, he has a phenomenal season. He grows and develops, and he's at a position where he can be a lottery pick. Obviously, he's not going to come back to Houston, and for good reason after the first season. And I think it'll be a learning curve for Houston. But then at the end of the day, ultimately, what's going to make that pill much easier to swallow is the success that Houston has. At the end of the day, if they're constantly Elite Eight, Final Four in that round, heck, finally get to the national championship game and win it, that's going to make it much easier to swallow. But I think it's going to be an adjustment period, especially for Houston fans, because they're just not used to it.
James, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I think that Houston fans are kind of prepared. They're not used to it, like Andy said, but they're transitioning towards that because if, like you mentioned before, what Sampson's done with these nobodies that nobody really talked about, and bringing teams to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, Final Four. What is he going to do with these top talent recruits? The biggest thing I'm looking for is if they get to a point where they're like the Dukes, Kentucky, starting 4 or 5 freshmen, are they going to be able to maintain that culture and stuff that they develop? Because you can have all the talent in the world, but it doesn't always work out. And like we've talked about before, it rarely works out in the long run in terms of, we talk about experience winning championships in the NCAA tournament. You don't see a ton of teams starting 5 freshmen win the Natty.
Well, what say you?
Well, I mean, I can only come from our perspective, and I said I think about Antonio, D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah,
D'Angelo Russell. He sat down. His dad, Antonio, and Thad Matta sat down prior to his freshman year, and they told Thad Matta, "We're here 2 years. You got us 2 years. We're leaving." So Thad Matta knew up front, 2 years, we're out. So close to the end of the first year, freshman year, Thad Matta calls him in the office and said, "Look, you have to go." And they said, "No, coach, we promised. We gave you our word. We're gonna stay 2 years." Thad Matta, "No, you have to go now." And D'Angelo Russell was the second pick of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So here it's almost like expected to a certain extent, and to the point where EJ Liddell just left after his 3rd year, and people are like, "Man, he stayed too long. He stayed too long." So it's almost the longer you stay, not almost, it is the longer you stay, the more time they nitpick and they find this or that, or you should have done this, or he should be better at that, versus you leave as a one and done. You don't give them time, and then you figure it out on the clock, so to speak.
And even the extreme on the other end of that, staying too late, Shaden Sharp, Kentucky, didn't play a game for Kentucky.
Right.
Only tape he has that scouts have for him is AAU ball, and I think international play, FIBA stuff. And he's 19, 18, probably 18 years, maybe 19 years old. And he's still projected to be a top 5, top 6 pick. But the unknown is there. His potential is there because they haven't had a chance to nitpick his game and find out, well, he doesn't do this great. He doesn't. It's just based on what he did in AAU, grassroots kind of stuff. So the spectrum is there. But yep, and I want to address this. I don't remember the name of the person, but this is a general answer for some UH fans who would be disappointed if Marcus doesn't come back, only because of his talent and what he provides leadership-wise to the team in the program. Coach Sampson has a plan, okay? Coach Sampson has been doing this a long time. Don't freak out. Don't panic if Marcus does indeed decide to keep his name in the draft. And what is Houston going to do? And, oh, no, woe is me. I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be all open. No. If you've been a fan of Kelvin Sampson as he coached the Cougars these 8 years, he knows what he's doing. He has a plan. He has contingencies all lined up for these scenarios. So just relax. Still be a fan. Don't hop off the cliff, jump off the bandwagon, none of those things, because the team made it to the Elite Eight last year without Marcus and without Jamal and Mark. So, yes, it's hard to get back. Tournament, matchups, health, all those things. But Jamal and Mark will be back. They'll find a suitable replacement for Marcus Sasser. I won't say who I have in mind, because I don't know this with where they're leaning, but I tossed it around to Andy and James, and they're on board with this name that I threw out there. And Will, I tossed it out to you off there, see if you concur. But yeah, Kelvin Sampson, he's got a plan. I think as of Monday, talking to some colleagues, he already knows. He has a great idea of what Marcus is going to do already. So he knows. So whatever Marcus decides, it probably won't be too much time pass after Marcus announced his decision when you see the Houston Cougars announce the signing of so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. So just calm down with that.
And even adding on to your point, like look at the past 3-4 years, they've lost their best guard each time.
Yep.
Grimes and Giroux, Hinton, Armani Brooks, like they lose their best guard every year almost.
Yep. As Coach Kelvin has said to us every year, we lost our 4 starters last year, the year before, the year before that. They've established a program. They built a solid foundation, and they win. The program, what is it, Andy, James, Will? The culture. The culture, the culture, the culture. So it won't shock me. They bring in somebody else. It won't be long for that young man. The culture, man. The culture. The Houston culture is strong, man. Whoever that young man is, the culture is strong. It's strong because it didn't take long for Josh Carlton to say the culture. Tazi Moore, the culture. We were like, Kyle Edwards. They're here like a month. Man, the culture here is so strong, man. It's so great. It's this, that, and the other, and all that kind of stuff, man. The culture is here. The culture has been established. So just trust the culture. They'll still be good. They may not be the number 1 pick preseason in some polls, number 2, whatever. We don't care about that here on this show anyway. They'll still be good. Fertitta Center still have sellouts. All those things. Gentlemen, I'm going to shift gears. We're going to talk playoffs toward the end of this edition of Folks Talking Sports. Let's talk Jimbo and Nick. Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. Who wants to go first? Will you want to go first? I mean, compared to the other 3, we don't know what it's like to follow a big time program like you do at the Ohio State. So you want to, give your comments from the mountaintop and let us little peons add our thoughts later.
You said that. I didn't say that. But, no, I mean, and more so, it was Nick and Jimbo, because they're colleagues, they know each other, they coach against each other. But he threw Deion in there as well, which was shocking, which is crazy. And Deion has been coming for his neck, and rightfully so. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nick was wrong. I mean, he threw it out there. First of all, Nick Saban is very, 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 very calculated.
Mm-hmm.
Everything he says is intentional and on purpose. So for those that say, well, did he know he was being recorded? Yes. In this age, in the year 2022, everybody has one of these. Everybody has some type of recording device, and those guys are coached to know that. And he, above all else, is someone, again, who's very, very calculated in what he says. So he knew what he was saying. And like Deion said, he was not saying it necessarily to Jimbo or to Deion. He was speaking to Jim Bob Cooter at Jim Bob's Chrysler Plymouth Dodge of Tuscaloosa. He was speaking to the boosters.
Yes.
To the FOPs, the friends of the program, to develop a collective that other schools have developed, Ohio State being one of them, to allow these student athletes to take advantage of the name, image, and likeness opportunities that are available, that are out there. And Deion said something very, very, very enlightening as well. Everyone's saying name, image, and likeness. Name, image, and likeness. Jordan Addison, Biletnikoff, award-winning wide receiver from the University of Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
just left and went to USC.
Yep.
Deion wasn't addressing him specifically, I am. But what Deion said was, for all this name, image, and likeness, I don't see anybody endorsing anything. I don't see any endorsements. I don't see any billboards. I don't see any commercials. I don't see any photo shoots. But this money is changing hands. What are we doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick, he got a little, as the old folks said, he smelled himself a little bit, got out there, and now he's trying to backtrack and probably pun intended, backpedal like Deion.
James, what do you think of Jimbo and Nick?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely entertaining. I think Will brought up a great point. Just like, remembering his audience, Nick Saban has been one of the best in the business. He knows what he's doing. I think, you knew this type of reaction was going to happen when you say something like that. It's going to make the A&M Alabama game much more exciting. I'm sure there's going to be some fights pregame. Tempers are flaring. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I think it goes bigger picture, just with NIL and transparency, like just bringing that to the forefront. It's sort of just because NIL is real new. And so we don't really know exactly what to expect, but then, it's just a crazy time in college football. But yeah, I think they were definitely entertaining, but I think Nick Saban had a purpose with his words. I don't know if he intended it to go this way, but like he wasn't just saying it out of the blue.
Andy, before I get your thoughts, another thing Deion said was he knows where the bodies are buried. He knows about the bag men. He knows, Deion's big time player in college. So he hinted at it on his time in college. And the SEC, there was an anonymous coach quoted in the Athletic article about all this stuff, the words between Jimbo and Nick. The SEC has been known to, how should I say it, Will? Chip into the funds for players for years.
Oh, absolutely.
Years. So for Nick to now to be upset about it now in the NIL vernacular, on top of the table, it's been rumored on the table for years.
Right. Because now the tables are being balanced.
Yep.
Before, like you said, the SEC was so much, and Alabama was so much above and beyond everyone else. Now with NIL, they're coming back and now it's evening out. They're coming back to the field. And Nick felt the pressure and felt like he had to say something. He cried. Andy,
what do you say?
No, yeah, absolutely. Going back to the original point that Willie said, Nick Saban was very, very calculating with his words. And the type of crowd that he was speaking to. This wasn't a press conference. This wasn't, catch me by surprise. No, he was, like Willie said, he was speaking to boosters. He was speaking to friends of the program. And at the end of the day, not just Nick Saban, but across college, the new college landscape, it's an ever-changing canvas, for the lack of a better phrase, where coaches are still trying to adjust to what exactly, essentially how to play the game when it comes to the NIL and how to take advantage of it. And when it comes to Jimbo Fisher, Jimbo Fisher kind of teased it as well too. Whenever he responded to Nick Saban's comments, he said, he went in on Nick Saban and said, "Oh, you can go do your own research, go talk to ex-coaches,
check his past."
Yeah, exactly. So, honestly, it kind of, and I hate to use this analogy because of the time we're in, but it's kind of like, and I hate to do it, but it's kind of like a Cold War where, hey, it's there. You go check it. I'm not going to tell you, but there's some dirty stuff in the past. I know Nick Saban wants to say, we're the ones that are cheating the system and paying these athletes. And then, of course, he tries to get kind of take the sympathy angle and say that he's targeting 18-year-old kids, Jimbo Fisher said. But, at the end of the day, like James said, this is perfect for entertainment from the entertainment aspect. Now, which I can't remember which network is the one that's going to have the Alabama A&M game, but whichever it is going to be the highest, rated game of the week. It's going to be marketed like crazy. Whenever that week of the game is, there's going to be all the debate shows, all the drama leading up to it. Hey, they're going to be playing those clips nonstop, and it's going to be brought up with both Fisher and Saban whenever leading up to the game. So, I mean, they just made a lot of money, quote unquote. And it's funny that they're arguing about NIL deals and kind of, for the lack of a better phrase, essentially buying players to come play for their programs when just with this little drama that they did, they created a lot more money for that game, a lot more eyeballs for that game. So at the end of the day, it's all calculated. And like I said, Nick Saban is one of the best coaches, and he certainly knows exactly what he's doing.
And guys, correct me if I'm wrong, the Aggies beat Bama last season, right?
Yes, they did.
So this year's game would have been hyped because of that. Mm-hmm. Now you add this kerfluffle between these two coaches on top of that. I think the SEC Media Days are going to be even more fun. And what are they now? They're 2 days. It's going to be 3-day event. In person, which we can get to in a second, Andy, about that. Will, James. But come back to Houston and Marcus Sasser. Does Houston have a collective enough to pay Marcus Sasser enough money to keep him, to get him to return to Houston for a chance to go to the Final Four in Houston?
Man, they need to step it up. A funny thing is though, the NIL deal that they signed with Star Pizza a few weeks ago, they have shown commercial and promoting their pizza. So there is an example of actually promoting a business in the college world.
Yeah, that example, Will, is an actual NIL, name, image, and likeness, as opposed to basically pay for play. We see majority of them. And, in truth, it is two different things, obviously. Name, image, likeness is the intended thing. And then now paying kids to come to the school, paying transfers to come to the school, all kinds of, buying cars, getting whatever. That's a whole other issue grouped under the NIL umbrella. Two vastly different concepts. But yeah, James, what do you think? Does the Houston collective, not the micro collective, is there another collective that can put together $500,000 to get Marcus Sasser to come back to Houston and play for the Cougs and lead them to the Final Four in Houston?
I mean, if Fertitta wants it bad enough, but
there we go. There we go. Thank you for saying that. And I think Matthew Smack has I'm not sure if it's called collective, but he's got his own deal as well. The Fertitta family announced a $50 million pledge to the medical
College
school?
of Medicine.
Mr. Gibson.
Yes, sir.
$50 million pledge to the College of Medicine by the Fertitta family.
Mm-hmm.
$50 million. Marcus Sasser to a contract, $500,000. $50 million, $500,000. James just said it. If Tillman wanted it, if behind closed doors, get that collective going, I'm just saying.
I mean, not even behind closed doors. Just have them sign a $500,000 NIL deal to one of Landry's Sawgrace Steakhouse, whatever one of his businesses.
And we could do a legit, Mr. Gibson, James. Mm-hmm. He could promote for the Landry restaurant, the chain. He could do all that. $500,000. And get another half if he helps lead the team to the Final Four. So it'll be $1 million deal.
Mm.
Tillman, Patrick, y'all watching this show, talk to the family. I'm just putting it out there. We're putting it out there into the universe. Marcus Sasser get $500,000 to come back, and then another $500,000 if he helps lead the team to the Final Four in Houston next year in 2023. Just tossing it out there. I don't know if that's been discussed or anything of that sort, but if it hasn't, why not? Okay,
exactly.
Because they say they want to be a big-time program. Well, in 2022, as Mr. Gibson stated, big-time program do big-time things like this. Kentucky, Oscar Tshiebwe, National Player of the Year. His deal is roughly $1 million to come back to Kentucky. Just saying.
Armando Bacot in North Carolina.
I'm just saying, if you're a big-time program do big-time things to keep their big-time players back, and you got a chance to play in a Final Four in your own city. So you could rationalize it and say this could be just a one-time deal because we have a chance to play in the Final Four in our own city. Okay. Fans wouldn't care one way or the other. Fans would be like, man, whatever. Marcus coming back. Thank you.
And Marcus is taking that deal, I guarantee you, because, I mean, you get to play 30-plus minutes a game for a nationally relevant team or bounce around, maybe ride the bench on an NBA. I'm sure he's taking that $1 million to, play for a top 10 team, arguably.
And he'd be on national TV more with the Cougs than he would be in the G League. Okay, so even whatever time he has, G League games are what? They're on Twitch, some on NBA TV. His handful of games with the NBA team, most likely he wouldn't get many minutes. He'd be on the bench. Whereas, like James said, with the Cougs, he'd be on ESPN, CBS, ABC, starting and getting 30 minutes a game. And being talked about, well, Marcus Sasser signed a deal, NIL deal with Landy's Restaurant, blah, 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 blah. We're just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. So, all right. As I hinted at in these final few minutes, the SEC football meeting today will be in person, Will. I think Big Ten will be in person as well, correct?
They will be.
I think the Big 12 will be in person. Will, guess who won't be in person?
The AAC?
You are correct, sir. The American Athletic Conference told me, it has been officially announced, but I mean, I don't think it's a secret. But yes, their football media day will be virtual. They'll announce more details later on, next month or so. Andy, what day did I say it was? It's going to be in July, I think, whatever.
July something, yeah.
Yeah. But yes, once again, it's going to be virtual. This is football now. Okay. The cash sport of your conference. And you're choosing to have a virtual media day rather than in person. Andy, come on, man. Are they doing this because they're still being petty at UH, UCF, and Cincinnati for leaving for the Big 12? Or it's just them being cheap? Or both?
Well,
And it'll be July 28th.
Whenever they do have to do these football media days in person, do the conferences reimburse the coaches and players that have to drive up to wherever they end up spot meeting? I guess in the case of the American, I'd imagine it would have been at Fort Worth where they had their headquarters located. I think that's an interesting question. I mean, we were talking about the conference just doing it to be cheap, but no, I think for the most part you could make the argument that is kind of them being at the end of the day being a little still angry with Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF for heading towards the Big 12. And it's interesting enough that some of the reports have kind of quieted down for a bit in terms of those three schools reaching an agreement to be able to head to the Big 12 in time for the 2023 season, which usually when it gets quiet like that, it's interesting.
I think the quiet means it's about to be announced.
Exactly. But that we'll leave that for another episode. But when it comes to this media day, and I'd imagine once the end of July finally gets here and they do officially have it, I'd imagine that that resolution, whatever happens, whether they do reach an agreement and all those three schools are, fully know that they're going to be heading to the Big 12 after this season, I think it certainly makes it much more easier at least from an American Athletic Conference perspective to not have to host all these schools and at the end of the day have it be hijacked by people asking those three schools, coaches, the players about the Big 12 and stuff like that. So I think it's probably a good chunk of the American being petty, but of course when you ask And like I said, Kris, I don't think we remember. I think it was you that asked Mike Oresco about future media days during the American Athletic Championship, and I can't remember if he was specifically talking about basketball media availability, media days, or football too. But I think he did mention that the goal was for them to stay virtual until the new schools come. So even then, right there, that's interesting. That says it all in and of itself.
Well, is the conference being petty, cheap, or both? Or smart?
I wouldn't say smart. Yeah, I think it's petty. Based on that last statement, Andy, man, I did not know that. But to say, put it on wax, as the kids say, that we're keeping this virtual until the new schools come, it's kind of a backhanded slap. Well, not kind of. It's a backhand to the current schools. Because what else is there? We don't want to turn this into the Big 12 media days.
Yeah.
Because that's what it would be.
How about shrewd? Could we go with shrewd?
Give another S word, but I won't say it. No.
How about you, James? What do you say?
Yeah, I agree with both Andy and Will. My biggest issue with this is Oresco has said that, even after UCF, Cincinnati leaves, that they're still pushing the Power 6 agenda. If you want to be one of those power conferences, how can you have you can't even provide, a legit media experience for your media, trying to promote people, trying to promote your schools. And let's be honest, even though they're petty, they're mad at, UH Cincinnati. You're coming off a season where you made history being, a non-power team or 5 conference to make the playoffs. With the football is going to get worse when these teams leave. Try to capitalize on it now, because as much as you're mad at Cincinnati, they did so much for you last year by giving you national attention, getting all the big news headlines, making that playoff, breaking the barrier that people thought couldn't be broken. So, even though you're mad at them, I still don't see the point of, hold the conference in person. You get so much more out of it if you want to be seen as legit, well established. All the other ones do it in person.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, sorry, Kris, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's not a matter of that they can't do it, because if they could host, going back to the basketball tournaments where they had every school, their respective basketball teams all in one location, it's not that they can't do it. At the end of the day, it's them choosing not to do it. And like James brought up a great point. In hindsight, and what Willy said, it's not a smart move, because that now's the point to capitalize. And at the end of the day, I don't think, when Rice and UNT are the schools that they hold it in person, that we're just not going to have the same eyeballs.
Those are great points. Excellent points there, guys. NBA playoffs. Dallas, Golden State, Warriors up 2-0. Will they go up 3-0 tonight? Will?
No, I think tonight Dallas gets one.
Okay. James?
I agree. I think Dallas takes game 3.
Andy?
No, I'm gonna go against it. I think Golden State has it locked. I think they'll go 3-0. I do think Dallas takes game 4, but I think that game 2 was it's hard to come back, leading almost the entire game, and then just to let go of the rope end of the third, early fourth, and have no answer for Golden State. And I think they have all the momentum.
If you 3 want to guarantee it?
No.
Andy, seem like
I guarantee Golden State up 3-0.
Guarantee.
All right. Got to get that back in the show there. Okay. Heat Boston Monday night, game 4. Andy, is going to be 2-2 or 3-1 Heat?
I got to go 2 because I have the Celtics in the NBA Finals, and the Phoenix Suns disappointed me with them getting shellacked and not showing up for Game 7 against Dallas. So I guarantee that Boston ties up the series 2-2, and we're in for a long series. I think this goes 7.
Guarantee.
James?
Yeah, Tatum bounces back, has a big game, heading back to Miami, series even.
You want to guarantee it, James?
I'll guarantee it.
No?
Sure. I'll guarantee it. Yeah.
All right.
Guarantee.
Will, how about you? Want to make it 3 in a row?
Yeah, that, Houston, man. Boston hasn't lost back-to-back games all playoffs. So I don't think they do it tomorrow. And I think Boston does win 2-2, best of 3 going back to South Beach. Jason Tatum can't go 3 for 4. He can't go 3 for 14 again at home. That's just not going to happen. Guarantee it.
Guarantee.
All right.
Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero are both questionable for that game, correct?
He is, but I think Jimmy's going to play. If he can walk, he's going to play. I'm not going to be different on this. Not going to be contrarian. I'll make it so this is really bad luck for Celtic fans. Sorry. But 4 for 4, it's going to be a 2-2 series. And, yep.
Guarantee.
It'll be 2-2 after Monday night. So, okay. So, yes, you can send tweets too. Let me put it up there. Let me get it right for everybody. If you want to send tweets to us, Celtic fans, if Boston loses tomorrow, Monday night, send it to Folks Talk Sports. You guys said, all 4 of y'all said it was going to be 2-2. Well, okay. So we might be the kiss of death, but all 4 of us are picking Boston to win game 4. Okay. Anything y'all want to say in closing as we wrap it up, thing pop into your heads while we were talking about the other things about Jimbo and Nick or collective Marcus Sasser idea or anything? Will, you want to say before we close it out?
Not related to that, just Cleveland Browns related.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield and his wife were spotted in Seattle this weekend.
Ooh.
And that's one of the rumored teams to be looking at a Baker Mayfield trade, which would help eliminate a lot of drama in Cleveland prior to training camp. So that's out there right now.
And Mr. Gibson, where is Deshaun Watson now?
He's in Cleveland.
And where are you now, sir?
Right now, I'm in Columbus right now, but I'll be in Cleveland come training camp and Sundays in the fall and winter.
All right.
A couple Thursday nights as well.
So yeah, we might have some Deshaun Watson commentary from Willy Gibson.
Indeed.
Excellent. James, anything you want to say? Add to it as we close it out here?
Not really. I mean, again, Tillman Fertitta, you should listen to this if you want UH to if you want them to be able to defend hometown advantage and try to bring it home for the city.
And that's the hashtag for the city. So yeah, I mean we're serious about this. Okay, we kind of joke about it, but when we talked about it, why not? I mean, big time programs do big time things. So if you want this, get it done. Andy, what say you? Anything you want to toss out there before we wrap it up?
No, I agree. First, we obviously got to plug it in that if you are interested in sponsoring the show, your ad can go in the ticker below. It can go in the corner, any one of these corners. And, of course, we do a live ad read. So if you're interested in sponsoring us, sign us and an NIL deal. We'd greatly appreciate it. And the second thing I was going to say is Dana Holgerson. He needs to start some drama of his own. And I don't know, he needs to call out. You know what? He should just call out Luke Fickell for the heck of it and see if he can get some engagement in that realm, and maybe that'll create some buzz for U of H and talk to friends of the program for Houston that like you guys said. I mean, Dana Holgerson kind of alluded to it at the open, and James, you were there at the open availability. They had one of their spring balls in the bubble where he said that Houston needs to. The donations, it doesn't just start with the football facility that they're going to build. Like they have a lot more they need to do to catch up to those Power 5 programs. So, hey, Dana Holgerson, he needs to start some beef, I don't know, something to get some buzz with the program and kind of rally the alumni behind the program because they need it.
They do. And again, big time programs. Well, big time programs spend big time money.
Absolutely.
Okay. University of Houston says they're a big time program. I appreciate everything Tillman and his family do for the university, but there are other wealthy alums.
It can't just be Tillman. Yeah.
It's not just Tillman. Let's stop going to him, relying on him to do everything money-wise for athletics. Other donors step up, and like Andy did, first things first, step up here and sponsor Folks Talking Sports, Let's Rage Cougs, Let's Talk Houston Rockets, etc. Every platform on here, you see these gentlemen here. Support them first, and then go out, support UH football, UH basketball, men and women, baseball, softball, track, all that. big time programs spend big time money. We have something that you want to say?
I do. Just a question, because when you said that there are other wealthy donors or alumni other than Tillman, the first two names that popped in my mind, and then after that, a third was what's the relationship between Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler? And then I thought about it as you spoke, and Carl Lewis. When you mentioned track and field, Carl Lewis. What's the relationship of those alumni with the university?
Carl Lewis is a track coach here.
Oh, so then okay.
He probably isn't, but Hakeem, I mean, he's at a bunch of the games. I mean, I'm sure. And then Elvin's radio.
Yeah, Clyde, Akeem, if he does things because of his religious beliefs, he keep it quiet.
Mm.
So in that sense, he's not Tillman. You know, Tillman, no shade on Tillman. Tillman's much more out there in his promotion of donations. You know, the family will have the name on the College of Medicine building. so names on basketball building. So yeah, so things like that. So, but I think Akeem, if he does something, it'll be on the quiet front. Clyde, I'm not sure about Clyde, especially money wise to the program. I'm not sure. You know, golf. He's a big golfer. He's got good connections. And
that's
Clyde,
just it.
You know, yeah, Clyde might be the one who gone to Tillman about some of these things because they do golf.
Okay.
But it's just not publicized like that.
Okay. Oh.
But if it's okay, if you don't want your name out there, as long as the money comes into the program and we can report about an anonymous donor made $1 million donation to women's basketball, great. You know, whatever. Let's make it happen. Because I'm going to say it again. Big time programs spend big time money. Don't just wait for getting to the Big 12 and say, oh, yeah, well, now we got money to spend. Well, but you have money now. You made your money in your profession. Help the alma mater now. Help this show now. Help other alums now. As we wrap it up, Mr. Gibson, how can folks find you on social media, sir?
Thank you, sir. You can find me at Will Gibson 7 on Twitter and Instagram, and also on Facebook at Will Knows.
And Yanez, real quick there for Will Gibson 7 right there on Twitter. Will Gibson 7, WILLGIBSON 7. Mr. Yanez, how can folks find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter at Yanez_5. Be sure to follow at Potsdama Jama on Twitter. We're working hard to get a very good guest for one of our upcoming shows that hasn't been finalized yet, but that's something that we're keeping a work ahead.
And James?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JDM2186. That's where all my updates for anything regarding UH athletics and just general sports commentary as well. So follow me there.
And I am Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. I'll just do the HR review. Y'all know what that is. I'm not sure if it's here solo, but it doesn't need to be solo because I'm going to go back to Folks Talk Sports. Here I am. Twitter specifically right there. Twitter at the HR Review. But our show, Folks Talking Sports, catch us on Twitter at Folks Talk Sports right here. Hasn't been official yet, finalized. It's still in the works for these shows to be part of other platforms. Waiting to get that done. It's in the works. This hasn't been done yet. May have a sponsor to announce yet. This hasn't been, it's not done yet. So waiting for that phone call from that person. So we'll see if that happens. If it does happen, it'll be a year-long commitment, fellas. So cross your fingers on that one to get that done. And then got another one lined up that's just for basketball season if that happens. So that's 2 that we're trying to get done. So fans, supporters, thank you for your tuning in. But if you want to contribute to our show, nickels, dimes, quarters, it all adds up. You know, dollar bills add up too. You know, dollars, fives. We're not picky. We'd like to be able to travel on the road, send James on the road to some games, not just via the Daily Cougar, you know, and have him come in from a show doing Folks Talk Sports on the road, media day, you know, an actual media day, not one of these virtual ones, be at the media day. So, but guys, thank you as always for your time and your insight. We'll discuss off air our next one, but I think it's summertime. Sundays might be good for me, maybe better for me. Let me know if you guys agree with that, and we'll plan ahead accordingly. Until next time, everybody, thank you for tuning in to us. Share the info, share the word. The audio of this will be posted hopefully within the hour on podcast platforms. So audio content format there, but you can catch the rebroadcast of this on YouTube at Houston Roundball Review, Twitter at Folks Talk Sports. So as always, thank you for your time. See you next time. Peace.